Such was the egocentric isolation that the wars of religion forced on the most civilized man in late 16th century Europe. But there was one country in which, after 1570, men could live without fear of civil war or sudden revenge, unless they happened to be Jesuit priests: England. England, which was almost untouched by the visible signs of the Renaissance, which had little painting and no sculpture, but had developed a fantastic architecture of its own. I suppose it's debatable how far Elizabethan England can be called civilized. Certainly, it doesn't provide a reproducible pattern of civilization, as does, for example, 18th century France. It was brutal, unscrupulous, and disorderly. But if, as I've suggested, the first requisites of civilization are intellectual energy, freedom of mind, a sense of beauty, and a craving for immortality, then the age of Spencer and Marlowe, of Dowland and Bird, was a kind of civilization. This is the background of Shakespeare. Well, of course, we can't compress Shakespeare into the scale of the program, but I can't altogether omit him because one of the first ways in which I would justify civilization is that it can produce a genius on this scale. In his freedom of mind, in his power of self-identification, in his complete absence of any dogma, Shakespeare sums up and illuminates the piece of history that I've just described. His mature plays are, amongst other things, the poetical fulfillment of Montaigne's intellectual honesty. In fact, we know that the first edition, English edition of Montaigne made a deep impression on Shakespeare. But Shakespeare's skepticism was more complete and more uncomfortable. Instead of Montaigne's detachment, there's a spirit of passionate engagement. And instead of the essay, there's the urgent communication of the stage.
What? Not mad? A man may see how this world goes without eyes. Look with thine ears. Thou rascal beetle, hold thy bloody hand. Why dost thou lash that whore? Strip thine own back. Thou hotly lusts to use her in that kind for which thou whipp'st her. The usurer hangs the cozener. Through tattered clothes, small vices do appear. Robes and furred gowns hide all. Plate sin with gold, and the strong lance of justice hurtless breaks. Arm it in rags, a pygmy's straw does pierce it. None does offend. None, I say. None.
Pure Montaigne, with a difference. You know, this must be the first time, and there will be the last time, that a supremely great poet has been without religion.
Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
How unthinkable before the breakup of Christendom, the tragic split that followed the Reformation. And yet, I feel that the human mind has gained a new strength by outstaring this emptiness.
How long will a man lie i' the earth ere he rot?
In faith, if he be not rotten before he die, as we have many pocky courses nowadays as will scarce hold the lying in. Oh, it lasts you 8 year or 9 year. A tanner will last you 9 year.
Why he more than another?
Why, sir, his hide is so tanned with his trade as will keep out water a great while. And your water is a sore decayer of your horse and dead body. Here is a skull that hath lain you in the earth 23 year.
Whose was it?
A whoresome mad fellow it was. Whose do you think it was?
Nay, I know not.
Pestilence on him for a mad rogue. Poured a flagon of Rhenish on my head once. This same skull, sir. Is Yorick's skull. The king's jester.
This?
Mean that.
Let me see. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. A fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times. And now, how abhorred in my imagination it is. My gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips that I have kissed, I know not how oft. Where be your jibes now? Your gambols? Your songs? Your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roar? Not one now to mock your own grinning. Quite chap-fallen. Now, get thee to my lady's chamber, and tell her, let her paint an inch thick. To this favor, she must come. Make her laugh at that. I prithee, Horatio, tell me one thing.
What's that, my lord?
Dost thou think Alexander looked o' this fashion i' the earth?
E'en so.
And smelt so. Ha!
E'en so, my lord.
To what base uses we may return, Horatio? Why may not imagination trace the noble dust of Alexander till he find it stopping a bunghole?
But to consider too curiously, to consider so.
Oh, faith, not a jot, but to follow him thither with modesty enough and likelihood to lead it. As thus, Alexander died, Alexander was buried. Alexander returneth to dust. The dust is earth. Of earth we make loam. And why of that loam, whereto he was converted, might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperious Caesar, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away. Oh, that that earth which held the world in awe might patch a wall to expel the winter's flaw.